Wait. Okay, it started.
We starting? All right, awesome. Well, thanks for doing this, man.
No problem.
No, so I've been watching a couple of videos, and I think that we align ideologically pretty similar. Do you want to talk a little bit about just like how you identify, like politically? Like I'm pretty sure you identify as a social democrat, right?
Yes, Social Democrat, which is pretty much I pretty much just agree with Bernie on every single point. Uh, that I Yeah, I think that's describes it. I just pretty much agree with everything on Bernie.
Yeah, no, definitely. Is there a reason then that you choose the social democrat label instead of like a democratic socialist like Bernie identifies as?
I'm Cuban,
Yeah.
so I came from the communist ideal, with Cuba and everything, and that still affects my family. So I think I just have an easier way explaining to them that I'm a social democrat instead of just saying socialist. Because even though you explain to them that I'm not a communist or anything like that, they don't understand it. So a social democrat is just a simpler way of explaining it to them.
No, 100. That makes a lot of sense. No, I honestly also like the social democrat label a little bit more than the democratic socialist, just because I feel like it's a lot harder to like smear social democrat. Because it doesn't have the word socialism, is it? I feel like a lot of people on the right they like hear the word socialism and they just freak out. So I also like the social democrat label.
Yeah, I understand. Uh, the riot has gone into this attack after attack after attack, and it's just a word that um, does not mean what they're thinking it means. So,
Oh yeah, 100%. Well, so as as someone who has like Cuban origins, how do you feel about Bernie's recent comments about like Castro and everything?
I found it that the attacks on it with the media was overhyped big time. I talked to some of the family members, and they agree that the Castro literacy programs were a good thing that he did. While he messed up everything else, the literacy thing was a very good system that was added, and especially with a poor country like Cuba, having a ginormous literacy rate in Cuba that nearly everyone, if not everyone, is illiterate. Literate is an amazing thing that you don't see in a lot of other poor countries.
Yeah, definitely. So you think that a lot of the attacks were just like kind of unfair? Like, is that basically what you're saying?
Oh, definitely. Bernie coming out and saying that we can learn something about the literacy program in Cuba does not mean that he's with Castro. It's very two different things.
Yeah, no, I feel like even if you asked him, like, if he likes Castro, he would probably say no. It was just that he is such like a nuanced guy and like a thoughtful guy that he like, if he sees something good, he's gonna say that it was good.
Exactly. Yeah, it's in Bernie's character.
Yeah, 100%. Well, so you're, a big Bernie supporter, and I'm also a big Bernie supporter. What is your favorite policy of Bernie's?
Uh, I will go with Medicare for all. Green New Deal is definitely a close second.
Really? Okay. And then, so is there like a specific reason that you like Bernie's Medicare for All plan over, I know Elizabeth Warren, she says that she's for Medicare for All, but most people say that she really isn't. So what is there a reason that like you like Medicare for All specifically over like a public option?
Uh, so around 2 years ago, I lost my grandfather because of lack of access of healthcare. He lost it when he lost his job, and since he didn't want the medical debt, he didn't go to the hospital until it's too late. So I don't agree with a system that gives anyone having to make the choice of going to the hospital and then getting a large amount of medical debt, or just not going to the hospital and dying. So a public option does not go far enough in my point of view. And specifically, the Medicare for all system, and you see other countries, is just a better system compared to what we have, or even a public option.
Yeah, definitely. Do you think that there's a country that does it best? Because, like you said, like most countries have like some form of single payer, but like it does vary a little bit. Like the UK, they have the NHS. Like in Scandinavia, they do it a little differently. Is there like a specific company that you think does it best, or do you just, in general, support the idea of a single payer system?
Well, I don't know which country does it best. There's some studies that say like France has a better system, and then there's some systems that say like the Great Britain does. So I don't know specifically know which country does it best. But I do know that a single payer system in general is just a lot better than what we have now, or even a public option. So I just prefer that by miles of what we have right now.
No, 100%. Same here. And then, so do you support Bernie completely? Like, do you also support like getting rid of private insurance, or what are your thoughts on that?
No, I think getting rid of public insurance, private insurance is a good idea. Because like I think Kyle Kalisi does a good thing. You're just choosing which mafia man is trying to rip you off. I just don't agree with the system of having a middleman trying to take away as much money as possible while people are dying. So get rid of private insurance as much as possible. If there's a way, if there's things like Bernie makes a joke of like plastic surgery that we got private insurance for that. I'm fine with that because that's not if you have plastic surgery, it's not gonna kill you or not. So if you want private insurance for plastic surgery, I'm fine with that. But uh, other than that, I really just get rid of private insurance as much as possible.
No, definitely. I know that in some other countries, like in Norway and Denmark, they have it where you can get like additional insurance. So say you like get hit by a car or something, like
Hmm.
all of your like medical stuff that's already covered by the government, but you can get like supplemental stuff where they'll just give you extra money if you get hit by a car. And so they have like stuff that you can put on top of the payer system, but it's not like you don't have any of it paying for your actual medical bills. And I kind of like that system.
Hmm. I would be fine with that, I guess. I don't, as long as it's not like ripping people off and like private insurance is doing right now and just leaving people to die. I'm fine with that. But in general, I just don't like the idea of medical debt and just the medical procedure just being privatized as much as it is now.
Yeah, no, definitely. Well, yeah, because the biggest problem with like the private, sector being involved with healthcare, especially private insurance, is that there's an incentive to not like provide care for people because like if they don't have enough money, like you don't if someone gets sick, insurance company doesn't want to have to cover them, so they're going to do everything they can to like not have to give that person care. And so it just doesn't make sense to have a profit motive within the healthcare industry. I feel like.
No, you're definitely right. There just isn't. There's how many stories of people calling their private insurance and fighting with them for hours and hours and hours just to get something that's supposed to be covered. And you just see that with private insurance altogether. So a single payer system that everything's covered just makes the ideal better in general.
Yeah, definitely. And so you talked a little bit about the Green New Deal, and I was curious if you could just tell me a little bit about like, so do you know if Bernie Sanders, if he supports the Green New Deal that AOC proposed, or is he proposing his own version of it? Because I'm a little shaky on that, to be honest.
So okay, so when AOC released her Green New Deal, it was a resolution, and it was pretty much just a list of goals of what we want to do. And then what Bernie did was he released an actual list of, so we're going to do this and this and this and this, like actual policies to actually meet those goals. So I think in general, Bernie's policy is better because it actually tells you exactly how we're going to do it. Um, but it pretty much meets every goal that AOC was talking about, miles and bound, better than anyone else. And that's why the Sunrise Movement is, endorsed his plan because it was just so much better than everyone else's. But anything that AOC said, Bernie definitely met in. I think at some points it even met. It went even further than what even AOC was thinking because the policy is just so. It just pretty much brings anything you could think of. He did a great job of talking about it.
No, definitely. It definitely seems that they're pretty aligned ideologically when it comes to that. What do you think is like the biggest like misconception that people have about the Green New Deal? I know a lot of people talked about it like banning air travel or like doing things with cows and things like that. What do you think like as someone who like knows a decent amount about it, what do you think is the biggest thing that kind of gets misconstrued about it?
Uh, when it comes to the right wing, they talk about it's like this socialist takeover of pretty much everything, which is not. It's what it does is it looks at these companies, which is like the fossil fuel companies that have lied to us for years and years and years, and they know what they're doing. They know they're destroying the atmosphere and the environment, and it's going to lead to terrible things in the future. So what Bernie does is he gets rid of those programs, gets rid of them completely, and then puts in renewable energy, which is according to multiple studies, is cheaper than fossil fuels, even though fossil fuels is subsidized by the government. And every year it's getting cheaper and cheaper and cheaper. And so the idea is if you're a big market guy, the Green New Deal, it's better for the market because renewable energy is the cheaper source. So in theory, what it does is the Green New Deal gets the government to put all these cheaper electricity, which is going to bring down everyone's bills as it is. That's actually better for the market because right now, if you actually look at it, fossil fuels is actually being subsidized with the government, not renewable energy sources. In some states it is, but in most states it's not. So actually, even if their whole argument is, let the market get rid of it, the market is actually failing right now because of government intervention when it comes to fossil fuels. So we need to actually get the government in there to try to get renewable energy, which is the cheaper source, and on top of that, save billions and billions of dollars and trillions of dollars, and save human lives.
Yeah, no, definitely. I feel like you made like a great point there that a lot of people, they talk, especially on the right, they talk about like smaller government and things like that. Well, it's like, well, that's not what we have right now. Like the government subsidizes these fossil fuel companies. They subsidize like a bunch of different companies. And so that's not even the free market at play, which is what they're talking about. They say the free market's better, but they're not letting the free market go right now. And so something like the Green New Deal, like you said, it's almost more efficient than what our current system is.
No, 100%. The Republicans talk about market and market and market, but then they do programs like allowing monopolies to be formed, and then they allow for giant government tax bills and giant government subsidies across different corporations all over. It, they don't really allow for a free market because if we allow for free market, we wouldn't have these giant monopolies and giant programs right now that allow for corporations to take advantage of the people.
Yeah, no, definitely. And then so let's switch gears a little bit and talk a little bit about the presidential election. So like obviously Bernie's your favorite. Bernie's my favorite too. Like far and away, I think he's the best candidate. Is there a candidate that stands out to you as like a good second choice? Do you have a second choice candidate right now?
Second choice in general. While I don't think that anyone gets close enough to Bernie that I would prefer them, or even comes to a close second, I think Warren is just the closest thing to Bernie. So if I had a second choice, I would just pick Warren because she's just the closest thing to Bernie.
No, I completely agree. It's weird with Warren because Warren is honestly probably one of the most progressive senators like that we have right now. But Bernie is just so much farther than she is. It makes her look like she's like to the right, but she actually is like I feel like in comparison to everybody else, actually a really good senator and probably is who I would be supporting if Bernie wasn't running. But Bernie is just so like ideologically aligned with my values that like I mean Bernie is just far and away the best.
No, 100%. She is definitely progressive. I do see that she's kind of trying to backtrack, trying to show that she's not exactly the same as Bernie, which I think was a mistake because if you actually look at the polls, she was beating Bernie for the longest time when she was like right next to Bernie when it came to policy. But as soon as she started backing away, especially when it came to Medicare for all, that's when she started slipping on the polls. Uh, which if you actually look at it, there's people that came into her administration, especially a lot of former Obama administrators. They came and then she started slipping to the more to the right. But in reality speaking, she's actually very close to Bernie when it comes to most policies. Uh, but recently she has been moving more to the right, trying to draw herself as away from Bernie, which I think was her biggest mistake when it came to the entire election.
No, I completely agree. I honestly think if Warren had embraced those progressive ideals and just tried to be honestly more to the left of Bernie, maybe not more to the left of Bernie, but just embraced all those ideas, we could be looking at a way different race right now. Like, well, Elizabeth Warren was, I mean, she was leading at one point. Like, I really think that she could still be up there if she hadn't backtracked on so many issues like Medicare for all.
No, 100%. She overtook Biden, and if we looked at it right now, her biggest argument was that she's just like Bernie, but she's a female, which a lot of liberals loved, and she was also getting a lot of white liberals that are, even though they consider themselves as moderates, for whatever reason they like Warren. So she definitely was leading, and she could have definitely been leading, maybe by bigger margin than Bernie is right now. except because when she started backtracking, a lot of the progressives that would have been aligned with Bernie backtracked and went with Bernie or went with another moderate contender. So she herself shot her entire campaign in the leg when she started backtracking.
No, I completely agree. So with that in mind, and with the way that she honestly turned on Bernie a little bit, like in the middle of the campaign, do you think that Bernie Sanders will try to find a spot for her in his administration if he is the nominee?
Uh, I don't know. Bernie's a pretty forgiving guy. I could see him might try, but I don't know what his campaign would do and what his people that work for him would do because it's not just him anymore. Um, if it was just him, I think he would try. I don't know if that's the best idea because I think having a progressive senator is probably the better idea.
Yeah.
Her in the Senate trying to help Bernie out would probably always be the better idea. But I don't know. Bernie's a pretty forgiving guy. I could see him try. I don't know, and at the same thing, I don't know if Warren will even accept it because she's recently been trying to she's just been mad at Bernie, attacking him over and over and over. I don't know if she even accept it. Preferably to me, I think her being in the Senate is just a better idea in general because we need someone in the Senate trying to fight for these progressive ideals, and Warren having the longest history there would probably be the better idea. But I could see Bernie doing it if someone in his campaign doesn't stop him.
That's actually a really good point. She probably could do a lot more good as a senator because in Bernie's administration, I mean, he's going to fill his administration with progressive people, like regardless if Elizabeth Warren's in there or not. But so she could probably do a lot more as a senator. So I think that's actually a really good point. Do you have someone that you think would make a good VP pick for Bernie at the moment? I feel like it's kind of up in the air. There's not really like a consensus. Everybody agrees on someone.
Uh, I didn't really have one until recently that I saw Nina Turner attack and fight for some of his ideas, and I think she fits the definitely the mode. She's been helping Bernie this entire campaign. She's definitely a fighter. She definitely knows Bernie's ideals and policies very good. I think she will do a very good job at it. But at the same time, a lot of people can do it. I don't have a pick right now, but I think if I had to pick someone, I think Neil Turner would do a great job at it. Um,
No, I honestly probably I also think that Nina Turner would be really good. The argument I've heard against her is that so like the VP is supposed to like get people who maybe the person at the top of the ticket isn't necessarily getting, and that Nina Turner doesn't necessarily draw in anyone different than Bernie Sanders is already supporting. I don't know if I necessarily agree with that, but what would your thoughts on that be? Do you think that maybe he should go with a more conservative pick, or do you think that he should stick to his ideals?
no, because I think the more conservative Democrats are going to vote for whoever the Democrat is, no matter what. And the problem is the people that you don't want to back off are the non-voters, the people like college students, the people like that have felt left out. You don't want to backstab them by putting a more conservative person. But the actual people who we're saying that Bernie doesn't really get are gonna already said multiple times they're gonna vote blue no matter what. So we don't really need to get them online. We need to make sure that the people who support Bernie or can continue supporting Bernie don't feel backstabbed by a more conservative VP pick.
No, I honestly completely agree. I think that a lot of Bernie supporters would feel a little betrayed if he picked someone more conservative. So yeah, I don't think that that'd be a good pick for him. I think that Nina Turner would probably be the best pick. I've heard some people talk about Tulsi Gabbard as a potential, but I feel like she comes with so much baggage from so many people on the left. A lot of people on the left hate her. I feel like it's kind of unjustified, but I do think that she alienates a lot of people on the left.
Uh, I 100% agree. I don't see why Tulsi Gabbard is hated as much. I in the beginning I saw some people hating her because she was on Fox News and Breitbart, but I really do feel that she's a very left progressive candidate. Um, like when she left the DNC in 2016 when they found out that Bernie was being rigged, and her foreign policy is always very good. I don't. She's hated more than she really should be. I think she would be a good VP pick, but at the same time, like you said, I think that people will feel betrayed, even though um, the hatred towards her doesn't always seem natural or just justified.
Yeah, no, she's honestly someone like Warren that could probably also do more good staying in Congress, you know, maybe either running for a Senate seat than maybe she potentially would in Bernie's administration.
I can see that. You're definitely right. Definitely in Congress and something like that, she could definitely do a very good job. Uh, maybe being in administration, I could see her as a good Secretary of State or Secretary of War, trying to get stop the anti-war, continue the anti-war movement that Bernie's continuing. I could see him good there, but I don't know. I don't see other than that, I don't see her as a VP pick just because of the reason that she's hated so much, even if it's not justified.
No, definitely. And then so Super Tuesday's coming up. How do you think Bernie's going to perform? Do you think he's going to do well? Do you think that there's any states that he should be worried about? Like, what are you thinking?
I don't. So far, the polling I've seen, he's doing pretty good in nearly all of them. I don't see any states that I would be considered worried about. I thought maybe the more conservative states like Texas or Oklahoma, but Bernie's winning pretty good in those states. Generally speaking, I don't see Bernie losing. I don't see losing any. If he might lose one or two, but and very speaking, he's winning by so much by the other states and the momentum that he's already gained. I don't see him lose having to really worry about Super Tuesday, even with the amount of money Bloomberg is putting into these states.
No, definitely. It's interesting because a new poll came out today, and he's up 8% in Massachusetts, like Elizabeth Warren's home state. If he can win Massachusetts, I think he's also he has like a pretty good ground game in Minnesota, Amy Klobuchar's home state. If he could win those two states, I mean that's it for those two. It's got to be.
Uh, the issue with the other people, I don't see them getting out. I really don't, because for whatever reason in their mind they think, well, I could win enough delegates and get in there, and then just have the super delegates vote me in. So I don't see a lot of people dropping out, even though at this point in the race, a lot of people should have dropped out. And even though they see that Bernie's going to win Super Tuesday by a lot, I don't really see them dropping out anytime soon because of that reason that they believe that they're going to get in there and steal it away from Bernie.
No, definitely. Well, so that's why I actually wanted to ask you about. So there was a story I read actually right before we did this. So apparently, the New York Times they recently interviewed 93 super delegates, and 85 of them said that they would not support Bernie Sanders if it goes to a contested convention. And they floated some names of people that they would consider, and they said people like Nancy Pelosi, Kamala Harris, Sherrod Brown, a few other people, but none of the people were actually running. They were saying that they would pick someone who wasn't even running. What do you think would be the ramifications if they pick someone like Nancy Pelosi or Kamala Harris?
Uh, well, one, I really don't see their vote really doing anything because they're not, like you said, they're not running. The super delegates votes have power has been dropped, especially by Bernie Sanders' efforts when he tried to get rid of them, and they came with a compromise that they was gonna be in the middle. But in reality speaking, if they stop Bernie from winning, even if he has a plurality and literally about to reach the majority, if they stop him, I could see a lot of people being at Milwaukee and protesting. But I can also see a lot of people that Bernie has brought into the race and trying to a lot of voters that weren't going to vote at all that felt betrayed by the Democratic Party around 2016 and even before that. I can see a lot of them just not voting, and that will make sure that Trump will win, and it'll make sure that a lot of people that Bernie has brought into the party will just stop voting at all, which will really hurt Democrats' chances in the future for winning any election at all.
Yeah, no, I honestly think if they choose someone besides Bernie, if it goes to a contested convention and he has the plurality of votes, it could potentially be the end of the Democratic Party. I feel like so many people would leave because they would see that as like unjustified. If they did choose someone besides Bernie Sanders, if he got the plurality, would you still back the Democratic nominee, or would it depend on who it is? Like, what are your thoughts on that?
No, I, if Bernie lost because they stole it away from him, I'm not gonna vote. I will
Yeah,
vote in the Senate races. I'll vote in the congressional races. But when it came to the presidential, I'll probably vote green or just not vote at all. Because
yeah,
I can't go and vote for whoever is put in if they stole it and it being a very anti-democratic move. If Bernie lost naturally, I'll support anyone except Bloomberg. But if Bernie won and then they stole it away from him, I just can't go and then just support that because that's anti-democratic, and I just that and I coming from a country like Cuba, that is a communist country, that is a very controlled by a dictator. I can't go. I know that their votes don't matter. Why would I go and vote for the blue, knowing that my vote in the primary didn't matter at all?
yeah. No, no. I honestly would agree with probably a lot of what you had to say there. If they took the nomination away from Bernie, do you see him potentially running as a third party candidate, and would you support that?
Knowing Bernie, because he did it back in 2016, he might try to back whoever the Democrat is, which I think is a bad move in general because he was hated. He was attacked for it back in 2016, and I can feel that he's going to be attacked even worse now because what they're going to do if they do that, it's going to be worse than what they did back in 2016. Uh, I think that Bernie will try to support whoever the Democrat is picked, which I just preferably think is a bad idea. What I can see him do, which he tried back in 2016, which he's going to try to get whoever the Democrat is to adopt some of his policies. Like we saw Hillary Clinton adopt free college and not doing TPP. I can
And
see
he's
him
also
try to
like a
do that
$15
again.
minimum wage.
Huh?
Oh, he also got her to support a $15 minimum wage. I agree. Yeah, he pulled her left on a lot of things.
I can see him trying to do that again, which I think is a good idea. If you're gonna support whoever it is, I try to get them to move more to the left. But I I don't. I'm not gonna very seriously. I'm not gonna agree if Bernie supports a Democrat, whoever it is. I'm not gonna agree if he's stolen from it. I don't support the idea of him trying to support them.
No, definitely. I think if they give it to Michael Bloomberg, I have a hard time seeing Bernie Sanders support Michael Bloomberg. I think that if they give it to Bloomberg, maybe Buttigieg, or maybe if they gave it to someone who's not even running, I could see Bernie Sanders running as a third party. I really could. I know that he supported Hillary Clinton in 2016, and she was obviously like there were a lot of problems with Hillary Clinton, and he still got behind her. But someone like Michael Bloomberg, I really think that Bernie just has such an ideological opposition, even more of an opposition than he had with Hillary Clinton. I think that I just don't see a scenario where he supports Michael Bloomberg in any capacity, really.
I can see what you mean. The reason that I don't see Bernie running as a third party is the same reason he's running the primary right now because he knows running third party he's not going to win. If anything, he's just going to split the vote and just going to make it that Trump wins no matter what.
No, yeah. I definitely. Do you think that there's an argument to be made that Bernie Sanders actually could perform better in some of these states that we consider as more like conservative? Because like Trump won, the whole Rust Belt in 2016, and a lot of people are saying that Bernie Sanders actually could have done a lot better in those states than Hillary Clinton did. So if he ran as a third party and say it's Bloomberg, Trump, and Bernie, I could actually see Bernie doing pretty good in the Rust Belt states. I could see him winning a decent amount of states.
No, 100%. The issue when it comes to Rust Belt is because they're so affected by our trade deals. And Bernie being anti-trade and anti these trade deals, he could definitely win the Rust Belt drastically, right? So that's a great thing about Bernie's running out, and that's a big reason why Trump won. Trump was on left to the left of Hillary Clinton when it came to these trade deals. So when they came to the decision of, well, let's support this semi-racist, actual racist man, but he might try to bring our jobs back or pick Hillary Clinton that nothing's going to change. They took the chance on Trump, and I don't I'm not going to attack them on that because I get where they're coming from. I hope that this time around they see that Trump didn't believe what he was saying. That I hope that this time around, if we pick someone like Bernie, that he's coming around and say, "Here's my record. I attacked the China deal. I attacked the NAFTA deal. Uh, I come here and I'm trying to get a better deal for I hope they're going to support Bernie, and I think they will. And that's why Bernie's beating them, beating Trump in all the polls. Even before 2016 and till now, he's beat Trump in nearly every single poll and done in the Rust Belt. So I think that if we're going to pick someone and we think that the Rust Belt is where the battle is going to be, that we need someone who just done better in every single Rust Belt since he started the election back in 2015 when no one knew him. So I think that Bernie's the actual only one who can has a Bernie has the best chance of beating Trump because of that reason alone.
Yeah, no, definitely. I agree with giant part of that. We've already been talking for 31 minutes. I'm gonna actually have to take off. But is there anything else you want to say, like before we finish it up?
Uh, no, I can't really think of
Vote
anything.
Bernie.
Huh?
Just vote Bernie. That's that's it.
Vote Bernie, pretty much. Just vote Bernie.
All right, awesome. Well, thanks for doing this, man. Maybe we'll do it again sometime.
All right. Have a good day.
You too.